Shift Happens podcast.
We've all had to contact our city officials at one time or another. Maybe it was to fix a broken street lamp or an unsightly pothole. But in a pinch, would you really know who to call? Today, I'm excited to speak with two leaders from the city of Richmond about RVA 311. This awesome project, developed with AvePoint Citizen Services Solution, allows Richmond citizens to request and track service requests online. The result? A city that's cleaner, safer, and smarter. Join us to learn how the project got started, how it has evolved, and what it takes to deploy tools that people want to use. Let's get to it.
Shift Happens podcast. Shift Happens podcast.
Thanks, everybody, for listening to Shift Happens podcast. I'm your host, Dux Raymond, Chief Brand Officer here at AvePoint, Microsoft Regional Director and MVP. For today's episode, I'm joined by Pete Briel, Director of Citizen Services and Response, City of Richmond, and Tina Haney, City of Richmond, RVA 311 Product Owner. Welcome to the show, you both.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Boy, it's been a while since I saw both of you. How's everything going? Pete, why don't you go first?
Sure. Everything's going very well. We just launched our citizen portal revamp and our next generation RVA 311 apps on Wednesday, 2 days ago. And we're very excited by the positive feedback we've received so far.
Thank you, Pete. Now, Tina, can you share and tell everybody what RVA 311 is about? And more importantly, what are the recent updates that you all just rolled out?
Sure. Yeah, we sort of, Pete and I both inherited RVA 311. AvePoint had that in place when we joined the city. But it essentially is a system that allows our citizens to report concerns that they have across the city, whether that be a tree that needs maintenance or requesting a new trash can, assess standing water, report a pothole, those sorts of things. So we have constantly, since we took over with the city in 2019, been working and partnering with AvePoint to make ongoing improvements. And when we did our RFP in 2019, we were excited. We actually, as we went through the next phase of development, went directly to the citizens and did focus groups with the citizens and got their direct feedback on what they would like to see and what they needed from it. And then we partnered with AvePoint to get that implemented into this next generation of the tool that just launched. We're super excited.
No, this is really amazing. And one observation I have is the city's commitment to serve and respond to the citizen, not just from this tool perspective, but really there's a full department around it. I mean, Pete, your title is the Director of Citizen Services and Response. Can you kind of share the bigger picture why this is something that the city invested in and why it's important to the city of being able to serve these requests and respond to it in a timely manner and provide transparency, frankly?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it comes down to our commitment to be responsive to our citizens and their needs. People interact on a daily basis with government, whether they know it or not, but whether it's through trash collection or social services or any one of the myriad services that they may need help with. And if you think back to the old days of blue pages in phone books, for those folks who are old enough like me, it used to be that you had to figure out what department might do things, look up the number, call them, maybe get redirected. It was a real headache. And this era where people have high expectations about customer service, they have those same expectations for government. And we're trying to meet those needs by making it easy to provide those responses, both to our citizens, easy to submit requests, and for our departments, easy to respond to them in a structured way so that they can manage that flow of requests.
I mean, it's interesting you brought up the phone book example because the reality is there's still a lot of local governments in cities or counties that still rely on that mode. Not that they want that, but oftentimes it's because resources are limited in terms of people and technology. And at the same time, you mentioned people's expectations are high. Like today, you look at the services we have. If I want to buy something online, I go online to whichever provider. I can track my order. It comes. If I don't like it, I send it back. Or I want to watch something, it's on my phone. So I think people have that same level of expectations with government, even if the government doesn't have the same kind of resources available.
That's right. It's incredibly easy when you're in government to forget how opaque government is from the outside. And so creating that transparency into where to go for help and making it easy to get the services you need is really critical. And people really can struggle with identifying who to ask. And so we're trying to democratize that ability to get services. So you don't have to know somebody to get service. You go to this 311 number or portal or app and submit that request, and it's going to get to the right people to help them out.
And I like the part what you described around the accessibility. So, sure, the apps are great. You download an app or go to the website, but we want to be inclusive as well. There may be people who may not be familiar with using the technology or the app. They still have means and ways to use the good old telephone and call 311, and it still rolls into the same system. So, Tina, I know there's a lot of updates. You've got feedback from citizens as to what they're looking for. What are some of the success stories so far based on working in this department and using this technology that you've heard of?
We have had we have success stories inside the organization, and then we have success stories with our citizens. So it's been an interesting journey because as we've dug in to figure out what the tool can tell us, we've built great partnerships within the city so that they can see it's like if you pay attention to what 311 tells you, it can help you with your decisions and your resourcing and your budgeting and those sorts of things. On the citizen side of things, the direct engagement that we undertook for this next level of development was informative. I think it was a success, just the fact that we engaged them directly. So that gave us a great word of mouth, like ambassadorship of people feeling invested and feeling like they had a voice, not only in being able to submit requests to the system, but also in helping us make the system serve them better as a whole. So, that was a success story. And as part of our campaign, we actually went out and did some actual marketing pieces to where we actually collected those success stories from citizens to sort of say, yes, through 311, we've reported 42 streetlights out in our neighborhood, and we have been able to see those repaired. And so, and we've got those materials ready to go. We just did launch this week, but those materials are going to be going out into the communities and through our social media channels to share with people and show them that 311 can help them be the eyes and ears of the city, we like to say, right, and help get their neighborhoods improve and help them be safer.
Now, digging deeper into the solution, right? So, based on both of your description, so when we talk about these requests, I assume these are non-emergency type of requests because for any emergency, they would be calling 911. So, if I was a citizen, either I call in 311 or I go to rva311.com or I download the app. Let's say in my neighborhood, there's it's raining and there's flooding that's going on or water just standing there. I can open up the app, type it or log in, I assume, and then it'll figure out my location because may have GPS capabilities.
Yep.
And then as I submit the type of request, let's say again standing water, the system would know to route it to the right agency. Is that correct, Peter?
Yeah, absolutely. Everything is mapped request to team. So that the most important thing is upfront designing the request so that people find the appropriate request and enabling really great search so that people can find the right request that has the right description in it so that that routing works well so that when somebody submits that request it's going to the right team. All those are mapped and there's the accountability for follow-up built into the system as well through SLAs.
Now, speaking of accountability, and I've seen this happen. So, as a citizen, I live in Northern Virginia. I can call in, I can go to a website, fill out a form. But once I submit, I don't know what happens. I may get an email saying, "Thank you for your submission." Then I don't hear anything. Will I, as a citizen, be able to track the status, who's working on it, when it was worked on, or has it been completed?
Absolutely. Yeah, the system has a sort of a a comment section, if you will, where the history of the request is visible. We give every citizen when they submit a request, they get a unique number. They can look the request up in the system themselves directly using that number and see what has happened in the history section and comment section. And then they can also call 311 directly and use that same number. And our agents internal to the city can look it up on their behalf as well and discuss with them what the status is of their request. And then there are systematic things that it does automatically so that as it changes to a closed status, once it's been completed and those closing comments are entered, we actually recommunicate to the citizen with an additional email, provided they've subscribed to have us do that, of course. And we can, let them know it's like, hey, your request has been closed, and here's the in status. And with the new system, we're super excited because the new mobile app that we just launched even has some push notifications to your phone that does that as well. So we can actually give you a quick ping when your status of your request has been updated or when your request has been completed. You get a quick ping on your phone.
Yeah, I got to tell you, this level of accountability and transparency, at least for me, is unheard of for a lot of government agencies.
And I would just build on that and add that with that completion email, there's also a link to a survey to increase that accountability so that citizens can respond back with how satisfied they were with
Right.
the service provision.
Good point.
So when this was rolled out, maybe even the idea, because I'm sure technically you had the option of not making that transparent or available, because I just checked the website. I can even look at other people's requests on the status of it. What was the response of internally a lot of these agencies in the city? Was everybody open to it? Was because this is truly something new where everybody would have true accountability and transparency as to what's being taken care of or not.
Honestly, it's a journey. I think it will always be a journey between. I think the transparency creates, in some ways, an expectation of citizens for instant gratification, and we have to really educate around what realistic expectations are for how quickly things are responded to. Some things are quick and simple. Some things, we've taken the route of enabling lots of request types. Some of them require complex remediation, and so they take longer. And we have to, while holding our internal departments accountable for completion, also work with them to understand and communicate realistic expectations to our citizens so that everyone's on board. Another key piece is that we have integration with the systems that they work with internally so that they don't really have to change their workflows a great deal in order to provide that transparency. Because just as they would be providing comments for themselves in their system, those are now transferred into our system so that with very little incremental effort, they're actually providing updates to the citizens as well.
And along that lines, I assume depending on the service request, there's certain level of expectations you describe or SLA that you put forth early on. So again, people want instant gratification. I'm the same way, but at the very least, that expectation setting, I think, would definitely help to some who may have differing expectation.
Yeah, it does, and it's an ongoing effort. Certainly as things change, expectations have to change as well, and we try to be proactive about communicating those. So, for example, initially during the pandemic, we had many departments had to change how they interacted with the public in terms of in person or face to face interaction. In terms of, for example, code enforcement not being able to go into people's homes to do or going into buildings generically to be able to do inspections uh, and changing the expectations around those about what we'd be able to do and how quickly we'd be able to respond. So it's a living thing. These aren't things you set once and forget. I think we all know that in government. Now it's incumbent upon us to actually proactively communicate that as well.
So speaking of the pandemic, it's been over a year now since pretty much it changed the whole world. How did this service play a role during the pandemic, Tina?
Well, I think, the fact that you had this online availability to be able to report your issues we saw some usage go up for us, I think, because the in person, as Pete mentioned, the in person interaction levels had to go down because of the restrictions that were in place. So, we just basically, it was advantageous for us to have this alternative channel and way that people could have their requests submitted to the city. Um, and as Pete mentioned, also, we did utilize it to try to, as best we could, start being proactive about adjusting those expectations where possible. Um, I wish we'd have had the new generation that we have now when the pandemic first hit. We could have really used it. But, it just speaks to the value of the new features and stuff that we have developed in there and how useful you can see in hindsight how useful they would have been to have the alerts panel and notifications panel that we just developed and built into the tool now. So it was wonderful that we had something in place to help them stay connected with us.
I just add a couple other things. One, being a cloud application made it very easy for us to transition our call center to remote work in the space of about 3 days, so that we could be fully remote and still, a call center was not a socially distant environment a year ago. But the ease in being able to go remote because of the cloud nature of citizen services made that much easier. We saw a big uptick in the need for social services, and we were able to respond to that. And we were also able to do things like create a PPE distribution network, where rather than citizen to city, we had nonprofit to city connections through RVA 311, so that we were able to work with nonprofits to set up places where we could distribute PPE to the public through the nonprofit, and then the nonprofit could use a request to request additional PPE supplies be delivered to their distribution location. So it was a really exciting use that we were able to use RVA 311 a little bit differently than we had in the past.
That's amazing. And you hit on a very critical point, specific to technology. In the past, prior to the days of the cloud, what's limiting a lot of government agencies to deploy something like this, obviously, it's the cost. Because if you build something like this on premises, it's going to cost an arm and a leg to get it done. But being in the cloud, not only is it much more cost effective, but the scalability and the ease of use and quick to pivot. The surge of usage, if that was on premises, maybe there may be a need to add more servers or tweak that, which may delay the efficacy of the solution. But are you seeing, other than being able to easily switch to the cloud, the additional future capabilities perhaps what the cloud offers could provide more benefit?
I think so. It hasn't been as big an issue for us yet, but certainly the scalability and flexibility. We've definitely benefited from the flexibility, and I think the scalability gives us a lot of options for the future.
And just the fact that it's a cloud-based solution and the ease that we can upgrade and make ongoing and continuous improvements, which when you have a solution that's an on-premise solution, that is such often a much more cumbersome process to upgrade something and get access. And especially with the pandemic nature of things right now, having your people all in there sort of like, oh, we've got to upgrade this server, et cetera, that we don't have to deal with that at the moment with it being cloud based, and that can happen really with the snap of a finger. Practically, we get the latest and greatest.
Now with this new launch and all the new features are exciting, and again the experience and the UI is really good. I assume it came from a lot of feedback from your citizens. What are your expectations with this new iteration of RVA 311? What are some of the metrics you put forth for yourself?
So there's several. One, we are really hoping to increase the percentage of requests that are submitted via self-service, because we believe the public wants that. We do see, um, demographic limitations to that, in that there are generational differences between comfort with technology. But there is a couple of generations now who are eager to embrace self-service. So we're excited to see how that shifts. And we're also really looking at our internal metrics for responsiveness, as well as shifting volumes of requests, shifting representing shifting needs, so that we can quickly recalibrate internally to meet those needs.
And we also want to take advantage of the flexibility of the solution and developing pieces of it that can help us shift the status of certain things. So, for example, capital improvement projects, which are on an elongated budget cycle, a lot of the infrastructure requests that come in through the self-service channels and directly to the call center are things that are going to be part of some longer term ongoing thing, and the ability to sort of transition the status of a request that somebody sent us for a pothole and sort of go, this has been transitioned to be a capital improvement thing, can help keep the citizen feeling informed, number one, but perhaps maybe ease that frustration level slightly to sort of say, they're going to do it, but to build a big sidewalk along this entire block of the city is a bigger thing than just something that they can run out there and do next month. So I think we'll be able to use it to up that transparency too into the way that government works, and that opaque nature of government that Pete mentioned, which is very difficult for people to sometimes keep in the instant gratification culture that we live in. It's hard sometimes to say that's not in the budget till next year.
Yeah, and I'll add one other thing that we're really hoping internally we'll see is historically people haven't been able to see requests in their community around them, and with the new graphical upgrade, so that people are seeing themselves positioned on a map and the requests around them, we're hoping to really reduce the number of duplicates, which is just kind of administrative overhead that we'd really like to eliminate, because people can see a request, and rather than submitting a duplicate because they want the same thing, they can now upvote it, which allows them to indicate their shared interest in that maintenance need without creating an administrative headache for us by submitting a duplicate request.
And what's fascinating and really exciting about this technology is from an adoption perspective, it's really no different than any other app or technology that people are using. The concept of upvoting, the concept of tagging or reporting or tracking, these are all familiar concepts with folks with other apps that they use. So, like you said, right, customer experience is critical, but also the ability to see and visualize and track is something people are well familiar with.
Certain generations for sure.
Yes, a certain generation, absolutely.
We'll see that continue to evolve, and we're excited by it. But we do try to always keep everybody in our minds and make sure that we're servicing through multiple channels.
Absolutely. Accessibility and inclusion is very, very important. What's the feedback from city leaders? I'm sure on a regular basis you would report to key stakeholders. What are some of their feedback responses? And I'm sure they hear from constituents as well about this.
So just as government can be opaque to citizens, government can be opaque to leaders. Many things historically were handled at the departmental level with limited reporting ability. This wasn't that departments were trying to keep things hidden from leadership, but it's just difficult to easily aggregate that information into something that you could share with leadership. Now, with our reporting capabilities that were significantly enhanced with this latest release, we're able to provide insight. I provide that to the mayor on a monthly basis, as well as being able to give him heads up in real time if we see changes or increases in demand. So it's very powerful for us to be able to, and very positively received by leadership. They can get this information almost immediately.
And we were very bold, and we actually made that similar dashboard style visibility available to the public. So they too can see all the work that the city is tasked with, that's of a non-emergency nature, of course. But so that was a big decision for us. So do we do that? And we think that transparency is very important.
Absolutely. And now just looking into the future, right? I can see you being much more proactive as well. So, for example, I'm just playing this scenario where you start seeing patterns, right? Hold on. Why is it every summer there's always a report on this part around trash and whatever? And then you realize, wait, during this time summer, there may be a festival or something that's going on. So there could be more proactivity that either we put more trash can or we send more help prior to the event. So we'll reduce those reports coming in.
That would be the ideal situation, right? So that's what you hope, that the a system like this that allows you to collect and aggregate so much data will help you foresee those needs, and get in front of them whenever you can, right? It's better to be proactive than reactive.
I remember that movie Minority Report, right? Like it tells you this is going to happen. Let's start preventing.
Right. Let's predict the future.
And hey, technologies are there. AI is there. I'm sure in the future there's ways we can infuse all that into the platform.
Yeah, that's super exciting. If we can, we'll put that on our 5-year roadmap.
That's right. That's right. Now, have other local municipalities or cities or counties talked to you about what y'all are doing, or have you shared your experiences? I'm sure other municipalities would want something similar if they don't have this yet.
We certainly have through other venues like this, especially in this remote world that we live in today. We've been doing a lot of conversations via podcast and virtual presentations within conferences. We're excited to share what we've been doing, and we're honestly excited to hear what others are doing as well and learn from each other.
And I am scheduled to soon speak with one of our neighboring counties about what we've done here. And, who knows what that might lead to. But I wanted to get on the other side of this launch so that I could show them what the next generation looked like and where we had taken it before having that dialogue with them. So we're excited. It would be thrilling for us if we could have our neighboring counties, especially in this greater metro area, utilizing similar or the same technologies as we do, so that we could share across those county lines, which oftentimes in Richmond and surrounding areas, you don't even realize you've edged into a county. You can't tell. So
I'm sure in some cases you would get reports outside your boundaries, right?
well, the system doesn't let you,
Mm.
fortunately for us. So that's one of the amazing boons of this technology, is we have our city boundaries geolocated in there. So if you are on the other side of what would be our responsibility, we tell you, sorry, you're not within the boundary limits. So I guess you have to call somebody else. Hopefully they have a 311 tool.
There you go.
But our geolocation capabilities in AvePoint citizen services are really fantastic. We're
Yeah.
able to couple that with our geographical information system internal to the city to be able to get an exact address on every request that is validated to our city mapping, so that our service crews know exactly where to go. And we're able, with this most recent release, to even do things, for example, in parks that don't have street addresses, where we can get GPS coordinates so that our GPS enabled vehicles can get exactly to the location that needs service.
That's awesome. Boy, I can keep talking and asking about all these wonderful features and capabilities. But before we wrap up, especially for uh, colleagues listening or our audience that may be interested in shifting and having a technology like this, what advice would you offer so that other localities, municipalities, counties, cities, to make that shift happen? Pete?
Listen to your citizens. That's crucial. Really understand what their needs and desires are. Listen to your internal constituents and what their needs and desires are. We did a lot of focus group work. We did as much internally as we did externally. We've analyzed our requests to see if they are providing the needed information to our departments so that they have what they need. And that's really crucial for buy-in. If it wasn't meeting our internal departmental needs, it would be almost as difficult to successfully adopt as it would be if it wasn't meeting our citizen needs. So listen to all of your audiences and really think about the benefits that this has. It makes it really, as I mentioned before, democratizes access so that anybody can get the services they need. And it makes everything easier for everybody in a lot of ways. I think and it's more efficient. I think that's another key thing with a 311 system in general is departments may not feel the pain individually of the uh, various ways that they're getting requests, but they're harder to track, which lowers efficiency if you don't have a request management system. And that little bit of incremental effort in every single department can be much more efficiently handled by a centralized team and call center, which really results in some efficiency gains.
How about you, Tina?
For me, I think that, I would urge people to look at it as an investment and be prepared for it to be a process of getting from point A to B. Don't adopt the same instant gratification that the majority of our society seems to have about everything else. You're going to have to roll your sleeves up and dig in there and get some work and get to those key points that Pete is mentioning about what is it that your citizens need, what is it that your internal folks need. And then you'll have to allow yourself time to build that out, try it, tweak it, try it again, tweak it. It is iterative in nature. And it's not the type of solution that you can throw in there like a Microsoft Word that sort of says, here it is, set it and forget it. This is an ongoing, living, breathing entity. Even though it is artificial intelligence, it's still an intelligence that evolves if you sort of invest the time to study what it's teaching you. So you just got to prepare yourself mentally and prepare your stakeholders for that journey before you can't just run out and jump in your car and go. You got to think about it a little bit.
Thank you. And again, I would have to congratulate you both and congratulate the city for really thinking about the citizens and making sure that their needs are met. And for friends listening, you can check it out, what they've done at rva311.com. Thanks again, Pete, Tina, for joining this podcast. And for everybody else, make sure you subscribe. Until the next episode, have a wonderful day.
Shift Happens Podcast.
Thanks for listening. Just think, wouldn't it be incredible if all services were as easy to request and track as they're right now in the city of Richmond? I'm so excited to see the adoption and evolution of RVA 311, which uses features like geolocation, push notifications, and surveys to help keep things tidy and safe. No matter what you do or where you live, your digital shifts can follow Richmond's lead. Ask yourself, how can you leverage functions like self-service and real-time tracking for your customers? Remember, make it easy, make it efficient, and make yourself accountable. Only then will a new solution truly feel like home. If you like today's episode, please leave a review for the Shift Happens podcast on Apple Podcasts or whatever platform you use to listen. We'll see you next time.
Shift Happens Podcast. Shift Happens Podcast.